We know that barbecue brings people together. And while we enjoy barbecue during times of joy and celebration, a plate of barbecue can be especially impactful during times of tragedy. Today, we're introducing you to an organization that's created to provide barbecue when it's needed most. But before we meet Amanda Riggan and Hungry Heroes, we want to take a moment to mention tragedy in the Charlotte community. This week in North Carolina, four law enforcement officers were gunned down while serving the communities they call home. According to news reports, a criminal with a high powered rifle fired at least 100 rounds at officers who were serving arrest warrants on April 29th. Four officers were injured, four heroes were killed. U.S. Deputy Marshal Tommy Weeks, Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Officer Joshua Iyer, and North Carolina Department of Adult Corrections Officers Sam Peloche and William Alden Elliott. Officer Elliott has ties to my own Hickory Metro community, and he was a 1995 graduate of Newton Conover High School. All four men leave behind wives and children, and we send our deepest condolences to the victims and everyone affected by this violent day in Charlotte's history. With this somber start, we turn to Amanda Riggan. She founded Hungry Heroes following a similar incident in her own community. Amanda, welcome to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you today. And I guess let's just start by telling us what is Hungry Heroes and how did you get it started?
Yeah, so Hunger Heroes started in 2018. There was an ambush similar to what you were just describing in Charlotte, but there was an ambush on officers in York County, South Carolina, where I'm from. And I had never seen our community so broken. I was a FedEx delivery driver, and I'm the day of. Can I start that over?
Just keep going.
Just keep going. Sorry, this whole thing with Charlotte has gotten me all out of whack this week. But there was an ambush on officers in 2018. Detective Mike Doty died, and I was trying to figure out how I can give back and tangibly help. People were putting thin blue line flags on their house and blue light bulbs, but I wanted to tangibly make a difference, and so I started barbecuing just to heal York County.
Yeah, so, talking about barbecue and healing, and we spoke a little bit about this. Tell me about what you guys are working towards being involved in response to what happened in Charlotte.
Right. So we cater in barbecue as a thank you for what you do for all first responding agencies, fire, dispatch, police. But I have learned through the years of doing this that when a tragedy first happens, a lot of times the agencies get flooded with love and overwhelming support. And so the weeks and the months that follow is when they really need us. It's when people's lives kind of go back to somewhat normal. And so for Charlotte right now, I spoke with the helicopter pilot at CMPD yesterday, and right now all we can do is pray for him. But I know in the weeks to come we'll be there to serve a hot meal.
Okay. So tell me about the Hungry Heroes experience when you guys show up and what can first responders and their families expect apart from that hot meal?
Right, we show up. They don't have to do anything except show up, and you know it's my parents. We have 10 different crew members, 5 board members, and we also have volunteers locally. But we just set up and cater in pulled pork, slaw beans, banana pudding, and it's usually the go-to meal. Pulled pork goes the furthest,
Hmm.
and sometimes it's a sit-down family atmosphere, and sometimes these guys, these men and women, have calls in the middle of their dinner or their meal, and so you kind of never know what you're going to get. You know what I mean?
Hmm. So definitely with this impact in Charlotte, and I know you're kind of on the periphery of Charlotte and really part of that community too in York County. How can people listening support your mission and not just help what's going on in Charlotte, but help the other first responders that you guys support?
Right. Prayers obviously is huge for me, and on social media, we're hungryheroesserves.org. You can donate there. We sell merch, hats and shirts like that. But You can volunteer. There's a form on our website if you're local and you want to volunteer. We're just I started this to heal York County and the Carolinas, and then after all the support online, we're nationwide now. So just trying to hit as many communities as we can.
Right, and folks, I assume, can make donations there as well financially, right?
Right, correct. Yep.
Yeah. So how many events do you guys support each year?
It's between 12 to 15.
Mhm,
A lot of them are planned, but sometimes, a tragedy happens or um, an emergency happens that we're not ready for. We have to be ready. I remember one of the most memorable events was when the condos collapsed in Surfside, Florida, a few years
mhm.
ago. And we got a phone call and flew out the next morning to serve first responders who were cleaning up the aftermath. And so things like that aren't planned. Usually it's around 10 to 12, maybe 15 events a year.
Okay. So you said you guys have been doing this since 2018. Can you estimate about how many people you've helped during that time?
Yeah, roughly 50 over 50,000.
Wow. Yeah, and
Yeah,
so
it's a lot.
yeah, I know over the past weekend you guys were involved with some veterans in a veterans event. Can you tell me a little bit about what you did?
Yeah, so we partner with the Independence Fund, and they
Mhm,
provide track chairs to amputee veterans. And so every quarter we serve at the Charlotte VA hospital, and it's kind of a drive-through type deal where the veterans they line up and they come through the line, and we serve them a hot barbecue lunch. And the Independence Fund gives out home goods.
mm,
And honestly, like, that's one of my favorite events I look forward to. It just fills my heart because you can tell that the veterans coming through the line, like, really need this, you know what I
mhm,
mean? So it's touching, you know? The first time I served there at the VA, there was an older gentleman, there was a veteran came through the line, and I remember I reached in like, "Hey, thank you for your service," through his window, and he looked back and he was like, "No, thank you for your service." And I'm, like, about to cry because here I am just barbecuing, right? And you've served our country, so
mhm.
that means a lot.
Yeah. So, what do you feel like has fueled the ongoing success for Hungry Heroes, especially when you were really getting it started?
Just the support and, it's crazy because this started in 2018, and then I noticed in about 2019 that is, when police brutality kind of ramped up, our
Mhm,
nation it was going through some hard times, and it's kinda like I was prepared for what was to come, um, but a lot of times people watching the news or they have family members that are military veterans or first responders don't know how to help. And
mhm.
something as a simple meal, whether you call in a pizza or anything, it's just the gesture of like, "Hey, we see you and we appreciate you," goes a long way, you know? 'Cause I'm definitely not a chef, right?
Yeah, and that's I think especially impactful now in this time here in Charlotte, just letting these people know that we see them and are there and to support in some kind of way. Now, after you got started in 2018, I know that COVID-19 kind of happened and that really affected a lot of people's. How did it adapt or how did you guys respond and maybe pivot or, how did you work through that scenario in 2020?
Of course, we had trips that we had to cancel, but again, we had to think outside of the box. And
Mhm,
so I started something called Stock the Fridge. And so every week we'll choose a department to go to, EMS, fire, or police departments, and just literally stock their break room and lunchroom with necessities, Gatorades, snacks. And then we also started Campus Heroes, which where we would go and cater in a meal to the school officers
mm.
at the elementary schools, high schools, colleges, because they usually can't leave the campus to come where we are anyway. So that was two ways that, and we continue to do both of those.
Yeah, fantastic. So, again, we mentioned maybe some upcoming activities in support of the Charlotte and the police and first responders communities there. Outside of that, what do you feel like is on the horizon? What's next for Hungry Heroes?
Yeah, so this year is a sustain and maintain year. Some years we've grown a lot, and some years we're just maintaining, and I feel like that's one of those. Some big news that I haven't really shared, but we have a new mobile kitchen trailer being made right now in Nashville, which is
Wow.
which is a game changer for us.
Yeah.
Um, my dream is to always roll up in New York on 9/11 and serve,
Hmm.
and so far, I'm hoping that happens this year.
Yeah, cool, fantastic. So, you're talking about getting a trailer and you're getting a mobile unit going. I want to dip into Amanda's roots just a little bit and talk about you and tell me where are you from and how did you get this interest in cooking meat low and slow? How'd you get into doing barbecue?
So I'm from here, Rock Hill, York County, born and
Yeah.
raised, and so that's always I've always been here. Growing up, my dad was always grilling, smoking ribs, busting butts,
Hmm.
steaks. I think I ate steaks and potatoes my entire life until I was probably like 15 and could cook for myself. But I literally just learned from him. And then in 2017 at Christmas, I got a new smoker. And so I got a Traeger grill, and that's all started it.
Yeah. So you mentioned your dad is some of the folks that have taught you. Anybody else that's been a guiding light for you in the barbecue realm? Things, people that you've learned from?
Well, I can't leave out my mom. She
Hmm.
worked in a deli bakery for like
Okay.
43 years, and she just
Wow.
retired. So the whole like catering aspect, like she chimes in for that. But ever since I started really getting into it on social media with the barbecue world, Chad Ward with Whiskey Bent is my boy.
Hmm.
I call him anytime, day or night, and like, hey, what do I do here? Kendrick Barbecue, Benny Kendrick, he's one of my guys as well. So, and if I'm traveling and in their area, that's the cool thing about the barbecue world. Like, if I know I'm coming to your area, hey man, let's hit up the police department, fire department, and collab. That's one cool thing that's come out of all of this.
Yeah, fantastic. Making some relationships in that barbecue community. Now, I see your Traeger shirt, and I know you got a Traeger involvement there. That's your first thing. Tell me about your learning curve and jumping into something because the Traeger is not really like a lot of other things. How was your learning curve and your learning experience on using that type of equipment?
I mean, it's kind of a set it and forget it type deal, you
Right.
know? It's kind of you don't have to babysit it, and now with, like, all of the technology and, like, Wi-Fi and stuff, I know it's kind of a cheat method to some people, but
Hmm.
hey, I'm not here to be, a pro pit master. I'm just here to do what I can to serve those in need, you know?
Yeah, fantastic. Well, let's talk about serving those folks in need. What keeps you motivated to keep driving and promoting and growing and improving the Hungry Heroes organization?
I think it's the relationships that I've built, and actually, if you think about it, if I wasn't going to their agency or going out to them in the community and sitting down with them or making them a plate, because sometimes I sit down with them and actually have a conversation, like a family meal, and like
Hmm.
I hear these stories that I would have never heard. I hear them from within, like in the department, and their experiences, and so just like the example I gave you of that veteran, like that's what keeps me going. And when I first started this for a while, I had really cool opportunities with celebrities or singers and stuff like that. And I realized quickly that that's not what fills my cup at all.
Hmm.
And that's not why I'm here. And so from the outside looking in, those things I thought were cool. It's not why I'm here to do this anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I looked a little bit on your website, and I'm going off script a little bit here, but it seems like you've really kind of got a passion for it, a lifetime of service. Walk me through a little bit more about what that service has meant, maybe before the Hungry Heroes. What is God? How did you get started on that path?
I don't really I got saved in 2013, and so my
Mm.
life drastically changed, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
a Christian, and so it was like a day and night change,
Mm.
and I started serving in the mission fields, went over to Ecuador, Riobamba. I had my daughter at a young age, so I was able to take her to Ecuador and serve there. Um, and so when I got back from there, I'm a single mom, so I work Monday through Friday, every day at FedEx delivery in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just felt like I wasn't moving my feet. I wanna serve, I wanna give back, and so when this ambush happened, and then I got this grill that, like I remember I'd come home from work every day and just, like, stop and buy, like, chicken or beef or just anything because I wanted to turn the smoker on, right? And I opened the fridge one day and I was like, "Man, it's only 2 of us here, like, I have all this food." And that's when it was laid on my heart, like feed them, just feed them. And so like no matter what it is, and if I'm traveling and something happens and I don't have my smoker or my things with me, I'll cater in something else. Because at the end of the day, it's not really about what I'm serving you right now. It's just that we
Mhm.
see you, you know?
Yeah, yeah, very cool. So, setting the charity work and filling up that cup stuff aside, what do you enjoy most about the barbecue life? Now, I got to meet you at the Charlotte Barbecue Festival, and that's a super event. Is it something like that, or is there other things that you enjoy about the barbecue life?
I just like being outside. I love the smell of the fire, the wood
Yeah.
burning, and it brings everyone together.
Mm.
Whether you're with strangers or family, it's just like the coolest hangout, you know? Like even when I met you at the festival, that was the first time we were there. That was so cool.
Mhm.
Like all these like-minded people, and they're all out to like help, give advice, throw together ideas. And I remember when I first got on social media, when I got into the barbecue world, it's kind of like the Jeep Club. You know what I mean? It's like just like a brotherhood of everybody. And I know there's competition barbecue, but in my experience, these guys will give you the shirt off their back and help you any way they can.
Yeah, cool. You mentioned the social media aspect, and I know you're involved in that. How has social media been involved, and how has it affected the success of the organization?
It's really like the new way to connect with people. It's the
Hmm.
you know, like I wasn't very big on social media before this. But sidetrack, 2019, I had a prayer video that went viral, and so like that one video is what boosted Hungry Heroes nationwide. And so without social media or connecting with people online, we would probably still just be serving in the Carolinas, you know?
Yeah, very cool. So you talked a little bit about your fire, both personally and the cook fire that you got there on Traeger. What do you prefer to use in terms of your wood or your pellets? What do you like to cook on your Traeger?
Usually apple and hickory, but I will tell you a funny thing, when I first got the grill, I was making, cookies, like dessert cookies on the Traeger just to try something new, and I
Wow.
didn't I didn't I didn't know I had mesquite pellets in the hopper, and those things tasted like bark. It was
Yeah,
so strong.
like a fence
So
post.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, like, I'm always like, "We'll just put some apple or cherry or hickory in there because I learned my lesson on the mesquite."
Yeah, the mesquite definitely is super strong, but what do you feel about the hickory or the apple? And I mean, are you still cooking cookies on the thing with your hickory
I mean,
wood?
no, when I first got the grill, I was doing a bunch of different stuff. I did like dump cakes and apple pies and muffins. Cause the Traeger's, I mean, it's kind of like you set it and forget it. You can use it the same as your oven. So it's
Yeah.
definitely not like an offset smoker. But yeah, I was just trying to do things that are different. Plus having to post on social media, I get so tired of pulled pork barbecue, like so
Shh,
tired
this
of
is a
it.
barbecue show. You can't say that.
I love barbecue and I love beef ribs, but I just get tired of pork.
Yeah, well, it's easy to do if you eat it every day, I guess. So, how do you feel like what you're preparing there on the Traeger and what you guys are putting out? And I understand you kind of get it catered in and you get some help out there, but how do you feel like what you guys are doing is compares to what other barbecue charities and businesses are doing out in the world?
I really don't know personally any charities that do kind of the same thing. You know,
Mhm.
I'm friends with a few people that help with after disasters. Um, but I really, I don't really know. I don't really know anyone else that's kind of in the same lane. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. No, folks like Operation Barbecue kind of serving wholesale disaster relief,
Yeah,
for the first responders, the military, as well as everybody. And we know they're in Oklahoma and Nebraska this week responding there. But you guys are really more specifically geared toward that first responder community, right?
right. Yeah, we cooked with Stan and the Operation Barbecue Relief at the festival. Awesome
Mhm.
people, so much help. And I know they cook whatever they can get donated and sponsored in. So like I would learn a lot just by cooking with them because it's a whole
Mhm.
different menu every time, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, so whatever they get, they're cooking it up. So let's talk a little more about the barbecue. What is your favorite thing to cook on your tractor?
Dino beef ribs.
Oh yeah.
Because, I mean, I don't know, you can attest to this, but it's hard to find, like, beef ribs and, like, tri-tip in the
Hmm.
Carolinas.
Hmm.
So, if I can get my hands on some beef ribs, yeah, that's it's funny, I buy my dad a case of beef ribs every, like, birthday and Christmas and Father's Day
Hmm.
because you can't find them here.
Yeah, and now do you have to cook it up for him, or does he want to do it, or do y'all split the case and somebody do each?
Wait, he has his own grill, so he has his own Traegers and stuff, yeah, I've learned from him, but, yeah, he cooks them up, but he won't tell you he's making them though, so you won't know
So
because 'cause
he's
we'll
not
all
sharing
show
with it.
up. No, he
Yeah.
won't post it on social media like I will.
Do you have a favorite style of barbecue? We know you're tired of pulled pork, but outside the ribs, is there a style that you like?
Carolina style, I'm not tired of pulled pork, I just have to give you a hard time, um, but, like, vinegar base, oh my
Okay.
gosh, Carolina vinegar base, even mustard base. We make our own sauce, it's kind of like a vinegar and mustard base together,
Okay.
um but the Carolina like a vinegar-based sauce, like, I could take a shot of it. It's so good.
Yeah. Well, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. That vinegar cleans you out, makes you feel good too, right? Now, do you have a favorite barbecue restaurant that you found first, on a national scale, and then in your local community?
Um, Terry Black's in
Mm.
Austin,
Hmm.
Texas is
Yeah.
one of my favorites. Every time I fly into Austin, we go there. I don't know about locally. I think because if I'm gonna eat barbecue, like, we're gonna be making it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
I mean, Sweet Lou's is, is awesome
Yeah,
in
he's great
Charlotte.
In the Charlotte area. You
Yep,
can go south and see Robbie down there at City Limits. That's a place I've been trying to get to as well, but that's a little bit further on down 77 from where you're at, right?
right.
Yeah. Amanda, you've been so generous with your time. Really appreciate you. Tell everybody again how folks can find out about Hungry Heroes, and if they want to donate or get involved, how can they do that?
Okay, hungryheroesserves.org,
Hmm.
and there's a form where you can actually volunteer, there's a donation form, there's merch, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, Hungry Heroes or Amanda Riggan. Reach out any way you can, and you know what? A lot of companies, just to throw this out there, like, a lot of companies let their employees serve on company time, so when we have the event, like, at the VA and stuff, we'll have different companies come out as a group and serve with us.
Yeah, fantastic idea. You've been listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show on the Mesh.tv network of podcasts. Be sure to visit us online at lowslowbbqshow.com. That's where you'll find the blog, and you can hear other podcast episodes featuring the Carolinas Great Pitmasters. If you like what you hear in the Low and Slow Barbecue Show, please follow us and subscribe in your favorite podcast stream. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating so other people can find our podcast as well. Special thanks to you, Amanda, founder of Hunger Heroes. Thanks so much for joining our program today.
Thank you.
Thanks as well to our producer, Andrew Moose, and the whole team at the Mesh.tv network of podcasts. Most especially, thank you for listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. Remember, for the best barbecue and the best barbecue podcast, make it low and slow.